Hello, hello, welcome in. Just going to get you up here as a co host from the main account, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, awesome. I got everything set up, I got my recording going, and we're chilling. Apex, thank you for being here. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to sit down and talk with us a little bit about your Web3 journey. I will mention that this is Making Time on the Syndicate Network. This is a super casual conversation where we learn more about creators in Web3. So sit back, relax, be yourself, and we'll just chat a little bit about your journey. So, once again, thank you for being here. I appreciate your time. How's your day been, man?
Um, been pretty short, to be honest. Played video games far too long last night, and then I slept too long and haven't done too much today so far.
Yeah, man. So you just sometimes those days feel bad, but you look back on those and you're like, man, I wish I had one of those days right now, dude. I feel that though, dude. Sometimes you play games a little bit too long, or maybe you're a little bit too busy last night, and then you wake up and you're a little bit exhausted. But nah, dude, I totally feel that. So for sure, man, I'm glad to at least hear you're doing okay to some degree. But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah, before I go ahead and start asking you some questions about your Web3 journey and what it's like to be Apex, is there anything you wanna mention before we get started?
No, I don't think so. You can start.
All
Head right
right, for
into it.
sure. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I will mention that this we're aiming for about 30 minutes. So, but however long this conversation takes us, no worries at all. So, Apex. So, what got you into Web3, my man?
Um, it was boredom, honestly. Um, I think a good year ago, I was really bored of university and like I didn't have too much to do. And whenever I get bored, I kind of have the urge to go on a spending spree and buy stupid shit. Usually it was clothes or Cisco skins. And then I don't even know why. I think a random collection was on my Twitter timeline on a different Twitter account. And I kind of made the decision to, okay, I'm buying an NFT now for whatever reason, like as an investment at first. And then I bought an NFT and joined the Discord and I was completely lost. Like I had no clue about blockchain, gas cost, anything. Like I was so clueless, and then I just joined the Discord and somehow found my way into a different community, and they were really helpful. And then I just yeah, it was full bull market, so I just started grinding whitelists and do like the usual stuff you would expect from someone joining the space, and that was kind of my start.
Yeah, dude, I totally feel that. My first exposure or kind of glimpse into NFTs came. You mentioned Counter Strike, right? Which
Yeah,
is a shooter video game where you can trade skins, kind of like NFTs. And dude, that was my first experience. My brother actually one year bought me a Counter Strike skin for my birthday. It was $12 then. Now it's like $80, right? So I just
yeah,
six
it's
or
crazy.
5x or whatever on my money. Yeah. So would you say so? You kind of came in because you were bored, and then you more or less kind of learned your way around the space through Discord. So, like, do you spend all your time on Discord? Do you like Discord more than Twitter? What does that look like for you?
I used to definitely. Um, in the beginning, I didn't really, I didn't even have had an Twitter account which was used for NFTs. I created this account just as an account to join giveaways and just spam. I didn't use it. I just entered giveaways for wireless spots and shit. And then I spent most of my time on Discord. But nowadays, I'm not too active on Discord anymore, to be honest. It's just Discord is like I have two screens when I'm on my PC. I have two screens, and Discord never finds a place on them because it's either I'm playing games on my first monitor, and then it's like Twitter or a video or a stream or anything else on my second monitor. And Discord like never finds its place. So I've been spending much less time on Discord, only in like a two or three communities where I'm active, but I'm not really chatting like much anymore. I used to spend much more time on Discord.
So I assume the reason you don't have Discord up as much is maybe because it's the bear, not a lot of stuff is going on. So during the bull market, did things look a little bit different for you? Were you like grinding more, or were you like what is now you spend your time playing games, but did you replace that time that was usually spent like grinding whitelist or something?
Yeah, yeah, that for sure. It was also when I was working like a few months ago. I was still working, and I wasn't doing much, to be honest. And, I just had Discord open on work because I didn't have any tasks. So I spent my time chatting with people. Like if it was for grinding or not, didn't really matter. I just spent time chatting with people. But nowadays, like I'm studying, I have a bunch of things to do and not too much time to just do nothing and be on Discord anymore. So I just yeah use my time a bit more efficiently.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. So one thing about you that I think is really unique and kind of caught my eye whenever I first discovered you is you are a content creator when it comes to Web3 gaming, and I think that's something that's pretty unique. There's not a lot of people who actually do focus on a niche like that. So, what is your general opinion on Web3 gaming? Like, where do you think it's going?
I think in general it's like the most obvious use case for NFTs and like blockchain technology. Because I mean, as you mentioned, CSGO is the OG Web3 game basically, but people don't know it's a Web3 game. Like obviously it doesn't use any blockchain tech or NFTs or whatever, but it it does the exact things so many Web3 games try to do. It has ownership, you can trade and sell items, you can technically play to earn, obviously minimal amounts. It even has a creator economy. People can create skins, stickers, maps, and they can get paid for it if they get selected, whatever. So gaming in general is just for me the most obvious use case, and I'm just amazed by the Web3 technology and like the space in general, and that's why I'm really focusing on Web3. But it's still a small niche. Like I was actually questioning myself if it's the right niche to focus on like 2 weeks ago. So but yeah, I'm definitely decided now like want to focus on there, and there are not too much creators as you said.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I actually muted myself. But yeah, yeah, there aren't a lot of people who kind of try to keep people educated. There's only maybe like because you're an ETH guy, right? You're mainly on ETH.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there's only like one or two guys I can even think of on Soul, but they're not even like they don't write threads, they don't really write content, they're just active in spaces. So I think you definitely kind of fill this niche that I think is super needed and super necessary for the space. So we're super glad to have you here. So one thing I am interested in learning more about is so you went to did you go to college for writing or computer science? I think you mentioned you went to university. So what does your education look like?
I finished my bachelor's degree 2 months ago in industrial engineering. So no writing, no computer science. Just boring accounting and marketing and sales and stuff like that. Um, Logistics, like pretty pretty boring. And now I'm doing my master's in it. But
Dude, I
yeah, go
I hate to interrupt you, but dude, believe it or not, I went to school for industrial engineering. That's
ahead.
crazy. That's crazy, man. And you're getting
Nice.
a master's in that too. That's awesome, dude. You learn a
Yeah.
lot, dude. Not a lot of people know what industrial engineering is, but it is one of those degrees where it kind of if you're especially if you're like an NFT project owner or you may be working on some kind of business, dude, it applies, man. It's got accounting, it's got business, it's got
Yeah.
organization, dude. It's really interesting. Like,
It's
what
like
made you so interested in it?
I mean, at first, I don't know. At some point I was just interested in engineering, like when I was in like 10th grade or something. And I went I went to I don't know what's called in English. When you do like you go to a company for a week and you just spend some time there.
Yeah, like
And it
shadowing
was
or internship. Yep.
intern, yeah, short internship basically, right? And it was mechanical engineering, so full on technical stuff. And I'm not the most technical person, like when it comes to building, constructing things. And it was just too technical for myself. Like the whole study and the topics weren't really my taste. So I said, okay, like let's mix it up, bring in some numbers, some economy. So I went for industrial engineering, which is a bit more theoretical. So yeah, that's kind of how I decided to. Really simple.
Dude, I can't. Dude, it's like I'm looking in a mirror right now, man. I did the same thing. I did a research. I did research in high school in 10th grade. In 10th grade, I did
Huh?
research for a mechanical engineering department, and then I was like, dude, this is not for me, bro. I want to be an engineer, but I do not want to do this. That's
Yeah.
crazy, man. So,
That's funny.
from your industrial engineering experience, right? Like, do you think any of that kind of applies to your workflow? Like, do you use any of that in your Web3 career?
Mm, I think not too much. Like there's nothing practical which I would say, okay, I hands on, I learned this in uni and I'm applying it one of one in my life right now. It's obviously a bunch of things you know about, like just how a company is structured, how things flow, marketing, sales, and you hear a lot about a lot of things, and you're a bit more educated, obviously, but I don't really apply things one of one, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think it's for me. Um, it really helped me understand like mindset and how to think and kind of be a little bit more analytical. And that's why I'm kind of
Mm,
glad that I have more of an engineering background, right? It lets you be a little bit more analytical and maybe make things a little bit more objective when they maybe shouldn't be. And I think it's really interesting for perspective. But dang, dude, it's awesome to hear another industrial engineer. There's not enough of us. I love hearing that
yeah.
for sure, man. But yeah, so I did want to ask you a little bit about what your interests are other than gaming, right? Do you like read any books or have you been into any kind of media recently?
Um, I do read books, yeah. I want to, I try to read every day. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Um, I like to read historical novels. Like it's either like personal growth books, like anything which like actually educates me, or I like to read historical novels. No fantasy, not so much sci-fi. Something which has some kind of relation to reality. Um, Rather than that, I'm playing Cisco a lot. Like I'm not just gaming in Web3, but I'm playing Cisco. I used to play it semi-professionally, so I do spend decent amount of time at the game. Not just wasting some time, but actually trying to get better and playing in the team and have practice and so on and so forth. But it's really it. I have a girlfriend which which obviously takes a lot of time and it's cool, but no real hobbies, to be honest.
Well, I wouldn't say no hobbies. I think reading books, even if it's rarely, is a hobby. I think playing video games, especially competitively, I don't think a lot of people understand how much time that takes, right? To stay
Yeah.
good at a game, dude, you can't like just stop and pick it back up. You got to keep playing. You got to have practices, scrimmages. Like it's busy, man. So I totally understand that. I played on my college esports team, so I totally
Oh,
get that.
really? That's cool.
Yeah, dude, I won't get into the story, but it had its up and downs for sure. It was a
Nice.
very interesting experience. No, but for sure. So, do you have like a favorite book that you've ever read?
Favorite book. I liked How to Make Friends and Influence People. It's a classic. It's not that long. and it's really old. It's like 100 years old or something. Like the stories the author tells in there, are like so old, but it has a lot of wisdom, like things you can apply right now. That was really great about the book. I've read it twice, I think, or even three times. And yeah, it was really cool. Like you could read the book, and the next day you could go outside and you could literally apply the things he was writing about. So that's probably one of my favorite books, I would say.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that it's like 100-year-old book. It's if anyone doesn't know how to win friends and influence people is a very very influential book, popular book by Dale Carnegie. It is old, bro. I got a copy from my grandpa. Um, it's got to be like 80. It's like quadruple my age, dude. It's mad old, but it is a good book for sure. It really helps you kind of with social relationships and getting to know other people, growing your network, and especially in an environment like Web3 where you're talking to people so often. Those skills are very, very important, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
100%.
awesome for sure. Like, that's a fantastic book. I'm glad you mentioned that because I probably got maybe 2 or 3 chapters in or sections in. I forgot how it's broken up, but that's definitely something I'd want to check out again for sure. So Apex. So, um, what are your thoughts on kind of the state of like thread writing on Twitter or just Twitter content creation in general?
Mm, I think content is probably extremely one-dimensional right now. Like most people, they write stuff. It's the easiest, like the easiest way of content. Obviously, like that's the reason I'm doing it. Um, but there's definitely a lack in video, video like long form, short form. Also streaming. I don't really know much people who stream. Like I know a few gaming accounts, but there's definitely also why not stream as a trader or something? Like there are successful people who trade stocks and so on. Like there's I think he's literally called a stock guy. He streams every single day, like when the stock market opens until it closes. And he just talks about the market. And it's much more than just trading. He talks about politics and what moves the market. It's so educational. Like I I, I never traded stocks and I was never into it much, but just watching his stream, you can learn so much things about the financial markets, but also just about politics, what's happening, what's influencing prices, and so on. So I think content is probably a bit one-dimensional. Um, but in general, I think we should be grateful about anybody who is pushing content because there are a lot of influencers and people who just they're there, they have their followers because of the last bull market and because they shield a bunch of projects, but they don't really do anything for the space or they don't provide any value. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think, especially in the bear, you kind of cycle through all the like the content creators who maybe weren't really in it for the right reasons or weren't producing the
Yeah.
highest level content, right? Especially during the bear, and then during the bull, like, what is it? Rising tide lifts all boats, right? So in the bull, you can create whatever content, be able to make it.
Yeah,
But
for
I
sure.
think you mentioned something super interesting, which is streaming, right? Like Twitch streaming or whatever the equivalent on Web3 might be. I don't think enough creators have tapped into that, right? Like I think you mentioned an awesome point, and I think especially for Web3 gaming, and it could just be I'm not very educated on what the current state of Web3 streaming looks like, but like, how do you think, other than like maybe trading? Do you think like you might pursue Web3 streaming, like maybe stream the games you play or whatever? Like, do you think there's a future in doing stuff like that?
Mm, I've definitely thought about it, but right now I wouldn't have the time to stream like enough to really push and be active enough to create a decent platform because it requires a lot of time. I mean, ideally you want to stream like every other day, like 3, 4 times a week for 1, 2 hours at least. That's quite some time. And with three games, the issue is there are not that many games you want to play. That's the thing. Like I couldn't tell you any game which is Web3 native, which I would just play in my free time. Like okay, I played a lot of AI Arena, because it was like a beta test and it was a competition and it was really addicting and I would play that a lot, but it's not out yet. So I don't really know for any games I would just spend my time on. So that's probably one of the issues why I wouldn't stream right now.
Yeah, and I think that's super valid, right? Like, I was actually about to ask you, like, do you think that that is the biggest problem for Web3 gaming right now? That there's not enough games that you would just want to play out of interest?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Like a lot of the Web3 gaming space is pushed by narratives, like by news. When you hear, okay, this studio raised $5 million and this game is releasing its alpha test and so on and so forth. Like that's a lot of the content right now, which just shows, okay, there's not that much actual live games you can talk about. A lot of the popular games, they're not really games. It's stuff like Sorare or Top Shot, like fantasy leagues, trading card games. And that's really small niche, which, for example, I've never played a trading card game. I'm not going to spend my time playing a Web3 trading card game. That's just not my taste. So, um, definitely lack of games for sure.
So, is there anything that these big games? So, you mentioned it's all about narratives, right? Like, kind of that social proofing, which is like, yeah, we raised $5 million, or we have X amount of devs, or Y amount of
Yeah.
like funders or backing. Like, what do you think these companies or gaming companies should be doing better? Like, how should they be? What do you think they could improve?
Um, I mean, the examples are like the examples I was thinking of were mainly projects which haven't released the game yet. So what they should do is, I think I've Present, who's a really good Web3 gaming creator, he just published a thread like 2 hours ago, where he was talking about how games are not using content creators enough to push their games, which was a really valid point in my opinion. Um, for existing games, it's super tough to be honest, because if you are a Web3 game, you probably have issues appealing to traditional gamers because they don't like NFTs, they don't want to play to earn, like they're not into these things. So you have the small gaming niche in the crypto Twitter scene, and then you have to appeal to them. You have to have a great game or some cool mechanic, whatever, or like the Beacon, which launched a few weeks ago, which was super hyped because it was really short. You could finish the game daily in like 30 minutes. You could get some items. It was just composed really well, but it's hard to copy. Like you have to be really unique and hit the nail on the top on its head.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you mentioned a good point, which is these exist. There's a key difference in how existing projects or existing games and upcoming games, like, they have different problems that they need to solve, right? Like, upcoming games, I do agree, I think they should be leveraging these content creators more, but it's hard because of the stigma, right? Like, not a lot of people or a lot of gamers want to be interested in something that's Web3 related or crypto related, right? Like, we've only really seen it tap into this Web2 audience with things like the conception of digital collectibles through Reddit, right? It's literally the same thing, but it's phrased differently, it's pitched differently, it's packaged differently, and that's when this stuff comes important, right? I think what's interesting is looking at something like Counter Strike. When it came to Counter Strike, it's not really NFTs, but it is, like, in some concept, and that's what these game companies really need to kind of tap into. It's packaging it differently. Would you agree that maybe some of these companies are leaning into Web3 too much?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. Like I've made a tweet like yesterday or 2 days ago where I copied a bio of it was not a game, but it was like I don't even know what it is. It's like a creator platform or something, and they had like the whole bio was consisting of play to earn, metaverse, social impact driven. It was just buzzword over buzzword. And I mean, me as a crypto, I would consider myself crypto native by now, especially when it comes to gaming. I wouldn't understand the bio. I would have no clue what the project is about if I just see the Twitter profile with its bio. So I posted it and I said Web3 marketing sucks because how on earth should a Web2 and like a normal gamer go on Twitter, see this project or some of their friends share it with them, they click on the Twitter profile, they see their bio. How should they ever understand what it's about? Like why should it be interesting to them? And that's exactly what you just said. Like they try to adapt all these cool things blockchain enables and ownership and we can play to earn and this and that. But in the end, you just want to have a game and then you can elevate that with new technology. But the way it's getting marketed right now, it's not really done well so far.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's part of the issue is ultimately when it comes to companies, it doesn't matter whether you're a game or like your service or you're a product or whatever. Ultimately, your marketing is going to affect how people view your product, regardless of how good it is or anything like that. So, whenever all this marketing leverages these buzzwords like metaverse and Web3 and crypto and blockchain or whatever, it becomes foreign, right? It does become foreign, and then it even worse, it goes onto that Web3 blockchain stigma that exists, right? So it's kind of a very interesting dynamic that these gaming companies are kind of trying to push to get funding or to get more people to touch the game. But I am interested in what do you think that Web3 games are doing correctly? Is there anything they're getting right?
Mm, I think one really cool thing about Web3 games is that you can build in public and together with the community. Like there are a bunch of games which they literally opened their Discord the moment they started working on the game. And they've been building a community, they've been engaging with people, they've been taking opinions and implementing them and getting feedback all over again. And I think that's something, the whole community aspect, which is not as present in traditional gaming. Like if you think of CSGO, CSGO is a huge subreddit, but the subreddit is not created by Valve. It's created by the community. They've come together and they created a subreddit. Now they share clips and news and memes about the game. And Web2 projects, they kind of do that by themselves. They kickstart that, and that can be huge utility. That can be huge marketing boost. Just gives you a player base from the get go. So that's something which is great about Web3 gaming, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the biggest strong points now that you mention it. Like when it comes to Web2 games, it's important to realize that these Web2 companies are either funded by like privately or they have some kind of deal with a publisher or something like that. And basically all of the creative direction is behind one set of people, which is the developers themselves. But when it comes to Web3, you have this the community fundraising, right? Like the community pitches in money, the community now has stake in the game, and then the community has a little bit more say in what's going on, right? They can be like, maybe this isn't that good, maybe we should add this feature or that feature, or they test it. And I think ultimately, in the long term, I can definitely see this being really beneficial for game developers. Would you agree, right? Because you have that community that can test your game, that's kind of gung ho about you and really supports what you're doing, right? So like, would you agree that that's a fantastic strength to have?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. If you build a quality game and you're able to continuously collect feedback and so on, can be huge benefit to you. Like I think if there's one kind of niche which will really break through in Web3, it's going to be indie games. It's not going to be the next first person shooter or MMO big AAA game. It's going to be an indie game. And many indie games, they are developed by like one or two persons. And imagine these one or two persons, they suddenly have 50 persons to talk to when developing their game. And they can get feedback, get opinions, they can reiterate what they're doing and change things, adjust things. this can really give you like the last couple of percentages to perfecting a game.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned indie games are like teams of one or two people, and some of the best games are made by one or two people. Like Undertale was a game that came out like a couple years ago. This huge game, and that was made by one guy. He made everything,
Yeah,
right? And then Stardew Valley was also a humongous
exactly. Yeah.
game made by one guy as well, right? And I think what this allows is this connection to a community for indie developers that is unimaginable, right? Because before these indie game developers would have to make it on their own time or kind of figure it out on their own, or maybe if they think they have good marketing skills, make like a Kickstarter, right? But now they're able to tap into NFT culture and meet new people and network. And what's interesting is they could even expand their team just through networking, right? They can get
Yeah, yeah.
quality tests like QA people, they can get marketing people through NFTs, and it's so interesting to see how it can be applied to the indie games. I think that's really interesting for sure.
I just wanted to mention that actually, like I know there's this one game developing, and they've been in development for like a year now. And I think one of the community members, he went from being a community member to becoming community mod or something, and now he's like their project manager, and they are working in an office together, and he's kind of checking that they're getting their shit together. Like he literally went from, oh hi, I'm interested in the project, to okay, I'm actually working on it. I think that's something which is special about Web3 gaming.
Yeah, because it's ultimately more accessible, right? If you're in Web3 at the moment, you're generally more grounded, like down to earth. You're open to opportunity. You're open to exploring these new things with community, and I think that's fantastic. I mean, I'm really excited to see what happens. Who knows what kind of games we'll have in 5, 6 years, especially like mobile games, right? Like, I think there's a lot of indie developers who could definitely capitalize on like mobile blockchain kind of stuff. Do you think that mobile is the future of Web3 gaming, or would you say it's more desktop console oriented?
100% mobile. Like mobile it's infant right now. They're not. I don't know many Web3 games on mobile, if any. I've play tested one, which was an alpha. It's not released yet. But mobile is super undervalued right now for Web3 gaming. But the whole PC gaming, they hate NFTs. So it's super hard to like get beyond this narrative. But mobile gamers, they don't care. Like mobile gamers are casual players. They spend half an hour a day just clicking on their screen, playing Candy Crush or something. But they would love to collect the items probably. Like many mobile games, all they do is they collect some random shit. They pass a level and then they get some benefit. They get a cool new character or something. So definitely mobile for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing a lot of people or some people don't really think about when it comes to mobile is the mobile audience is a lot more international than like the desktop or console audience, right? That's normally like a Western culture kind of thing. So I
Yeah.
think in areas where the cost of living is lower and like receiving an NFT is actually a lot more impactful, there could be a ton of adoption, right? Because people could be playing the games and be able to make reasonable money off of it, and then be able to have like that could actually make a difference, right? So I think that would be. I'm excited, dude. Just talking about it gets me excited. I'm excited to see what happens and what kind of Candy Crushes and Stardew Valleys and Undertale kind of come out of it. Um, so definitely, it's been an awesome conversation talking about Web3 gaming, kind of getting your opinion on stuff and maybe some outlook on the future. So I'm going to ask you a couple more questions and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. But my next question for you is, what do you think the future of Web3 gaming looks like 3 to 5 years from now? Like, what do you think that will look like?
Mm, I think in 3 to 5 years we should definitely have like a huge game which has originated in the Web3 space. Probably an indie title, in my opinion. I'm hoping game like Treeverse or something is able to make it create AAA game, but it's just super hard. So I'm guessing a Web3 game, but definitely one game which is played by more than just crypto Twitter. And I think beyond that, in general, that we don't really have to differentiate between Web3 gaming and Web2 gaming. Like you can launch a game in Epic Games and you don't know if it has NFTs or not. You just play it, and if it has NFTs, cool. But you don't have to create a wallet. You don't have to bridge funds to a different blockchain or something. It's like it's seamless and it's just games. Like you don't even have these two categories anymore. It's just games. I think that would be the ideal future.
And that's what I'm excited for. I'm excited for that moment where the barrier, the walls between Web 2 and Web 3 finally fall, and I can be my Jelly Rascal or NFT or Monkey Picture or whatever and be able to talk to my Web 2 friends and not be embarrassed about it. That's what I'm excited for. But I think it will be really interesting to see the barrier drop between Web 2 and Web 3 games, right? It just becomes games that you own, which your digital collectibles, right? You own the stuff in your game rather than that being the product, or sorry, the property of the developer, right? I mean, it's ultimately the dream we're striving to achieve. So I think it would be awesome to see that realized. But I agree with you. I think there'll maybe be one or two games that stand out and kind of be the flagship for us, and we can rally behind that and grow along with them. So my final question for you is, if you had to start over in Web3 with your writing career and kind of who you are as Apex, what would you do differently?
But it's a tough one. Um, I think, okay, this is probably a bit of a cliche, but really focus on consistency over anything. Like when I was starting out, like, let me phrase it otherwise, like have a plan what you're going to do. Like when I started out, I just said, okay, I want to grow my platform now because that's like the number one thing I should be doing if I want a job here or if I want to spend my time here. So I started writing it like a thread. Maybe it was one a week, like not much plan how. I just started getting into it, but I was not tweeting anything in between. So there was just a huge lag. And then I started tweeting much more because I realized, okay, I need to be much more active. But I had no plan, so I just tweeted whatever came to my mind whenever it came to my mind. So I had no schedule, I had no structure when and how and about what I wanted to tweet. And then at some point, like after reading the millionth NFT God thread, I realized, okay, let's pause, make a plan, and really start over. And I think if I would have done that from the get-go, I would be a bit further now for sure.
Yeah, man, I think a lot of people go through that, right? You only kind of learn those lessons once you've realized what you're missing, right? Like you look
Yeah.
back and you're like, dude, I could have been at 7,000 followers by now, right? I'm sure, like, I look at some of these other thread writers like CJ and some of these other guys who've been grinding and grinding and grinding. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, bro, I wish that was me, dude. I should have been like them. So, dude, I totally understand that for sure. And I think that's a lesson a lot of people would go back and learn is be consistent and also just believe in yourself, right? Like build a
Yeah.
system, be disciplined, believe in yourself, and you'll make it, right? That's what all these creators, that's what NFT God says every day, basically, right? So it's funny you mention that.
Yeah.
But
Also, don't just look at numbers too much. Like you, it's so easy to okay. I just pushed a tweet. I just pushed a thread, and okay, I only got 5 likes. Why should I be doing this? But that should not be your focus at all in the beginning. Like nobody's going to care about you. Maybe you're going to get lucky and you write about a cool project, or you make a good meme and you get a bunch of likes. But nobody's going to care about you in the beginning. But you will have people who see you. They see you spending time and time on your on Twitter. Then they will follow you, and then you will get two more likes the next tweet and two more the next tweet, and then at some point, it's just going to start growing and growing and growing.
right, for sure, those few supporters at the beginning are gonna basically propel you to heights you've never seen before, right? Focus on you. Don't worry about numbers. Just post your content. Start getting better. For, focus on yourself, and you'll make it. Right? I totally agree with what you're saying. And thanks for saying that. I appreciate that for sure. So, Apex, it has been an awesome conversation. Uh, I enjoyed what we talked about today. It's awesome to hear that another industrial engineer exists in Web3. I thought I was the only one. So it's fantastic to hear you around. And it was interesting learning about kind of. Oh, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, good, all good.
Oh, okay, but it's interesting learning about your opinions on gaming and Web3 because I'm not too invested in. I'm sure a lot of people aren't. So it's awesome to kind of be up to date on what's going on and what your opinion is, and get an outlook on the space. But I will be wrapping things up. Thank you for being here. Do you have any final want to mention before I end things?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. It was really cool talking. It was my first time appearing on a spaces like this. Like I've I've talked on a bunch of stages, but never being the spotlight. So really cool experience. I'm hoping to do this more in the future. And awesome hosting by you. And I'm going to be tuning in on the next episodes if I have time, for sure.
Dude, thank you so much. That means a lot to me and all of the other creators that will be on these spaces. Once again, Making Time is a space for creators by creators. I'm really happy to hear that this is the first time you've been highlighted because you deserve to be highlighted more, and I'm glad we're able to do you justice. So, for sure, thank you for being here, Apex. Everyone in the audience, thank you for listening. We appreciate your time so much. We will have another space tomorrow with Famous Clouds. He's a YouTube creator. You can actually go on our profile and turn on notifications for that one. And that is at 1:30 p.m. CST or 7:30 p.m. GMT tomorrow. So if you're interested in that, we'd love to have you guys. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the space. Thank you so much again, Apex, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day.
You too, you too.
All right, bye bye, everyone.